Hi everyone. Today me and my colleagues Shoban, Maki and Jazim are going to present the British Airways case. Before we start our presentation, I'm going to give a quick overview about the company. So the British Airways is part of the international airline group. It is the largest international carrier in the UK. The carrier has its home base at Heathrow, the world's busiest international airport, and has a fleet of more than 280 crafts. The airline carries more than 40 million customers a year. Now I'm going to give the floor to my friend Shoban, who's going to present and talk about the British Airways strategy.
Thank you, Moad. Before I start presenting, if the operation management of British Airways were aligned to its strategic aims, I would like to quickly tell you the strategic aims of British Airways. Become the global premium airline, be the airline of choice for long-haul premium customers, deliver differentiated service for all customers at key touchpoints, grow presence in key global cities, sustain and build a leadership position in London, meet our customers' need and also to improve margins through new revenue stream. If the operational management of British Airways align with the strategies. Why should the strategies be linked or aligned to the operational management? So it allows the business to accelerate and keeps running smoothly, without achieving the strategic aims gradually, which lets us understand that we are striving towards the right direction. There are many factors that has been affecting the operational management of British Airways both internally and externally due to COVID. Let's see the internal factors first. Changes in the management. A lot of changes took place in their management due to the pandemic. Deep crisis, that is the fire and rehire option that was practiced in their airline company. High operational cost, that is due to implementation of new health and safety measures. And also they had to operate the flights with reduction of passengers. They were having a bad relationship with the employees as they were not treated well. Let's see the external factors. Due to COVID-19, Terminal 5 has been shut down, which affected them terribly. Travel restrictions and travel ban worldwide applied due to COVID. The existing of fuel price differentiation. When seeing British Airways through the Hayes and Wheelwright's model, there's a huge gap which creates problem internally, externally, which doesn't produce an operational advantage. So it clearly shows the operational management isn't aligned with the strategy.
Today we'll be speaking about operation management, especially for British Airways, and in context of the Hayes and Wheelwright model. So basically, the COVID crisis came about last March, and it hit the aviation industry and especially British Airways by surprise. And so for this, the Hayes and Wheelwright model has played a part internally for British Airways. They were forced into making employees redundant, and the IAG, the parent company of British Airways, issued a statement confirming that there is going to be a redundancy program, seeing 12,000 people lose their jobs due to the demand falling for flights and the crisis. And so British Airways, they were forced into changing their procedures going forward to act as a COVID safe flight. So that came into effect with, for example, seating arrangements in the flight. So they went from row to row. So they started from the rear, then going up to top. That is because they wanted to maintain social distance, and they also cut short of food and beverages so they could reduce the transmission of COVID. So that was stages 1 and 2 for the model, and stages 3 and 4 going forward, their solution, how they will recover. So British Airways have agreements with airlines, giants such as American Airlines, and they provide flights from the US to the UK, and that came into a stop when the US declared that they would stop all flights coming out from Europe to stop the transmission of COVID. And so yeah, so that was an advantage for British Airways, that made them better than other airlines, and that actually had to stop, and they had to find a solution going forward. That solution was they created an airline under IAG, which is called Aer Lingus. It is a less costly airline, and it is going to be into force into mainly areas outside of London, because there the demand for low cost flights is higher. They don't want to take premium flights, which British Airways is known for, and it's a very expensive ticket. So yeah, so their aircraft have 184 seats, 168 of them being economy. That shows you that how much they are targeting like low cost flights, and that's going to be operated outside of London, where they see that the demand, and that is the demand for low cost flights is high, and that will be aiming for them to survive the crisis and increase sales rapidly.
I will be discussing the capacity management section within the presentation. So how does airlines approach capacity? First of all, the airline management team needs to effectively plan and develop a long-term capacity management system. This is important because the capacity within the aircraft industry is calculated through the number of seats within the airplane. Therefore, because airplanes cannot change the number of seats in each aircraft easily, optimizing the load factor per each flight is very important. Furthermore, the lead time that is needed to produce aircraft equipment could take months. Therefore, a good long-term capacity system will help the airlines by solving foreseeable issues, therefore ultimately reducing delay. Number 2, airlines could also create alliance agreements. Airlines can improve their load factor by getting into alliance agreements and partnership where shared capacities can be managed using code sharing with other airlines. So what is code sharing? Code sharing is when two or more airlines work together by selling each other's seats through their market. This will help increase sales for both airlines, which will reduce the capacity management problems. These approaches reduce the fixed cost needed for capacity expansion and the risk that is associated with demand fluctuation. As a result, alliance and such partnerships are important for a successful capacity management. What is the difference between scheduled airlines like BA and charter airlines in capacity management? Let's look at the scheduled airlines. So in terms of scheduled airlines, such as British Airways, they have around 345 seats. This means that there's more capacity for passengers and luggage. Number 2, it's harder to reach the maximum capacity within the scheduled airlines as their capacity is much larger when we compare it to charter airlines. Number 3, many scheduled flights are connected flights. Therefore, scheduled flights are more likely to have empty seats, which is a capacity management issue. Okay, let's talk about the charter airlines. So charter airlines are smaller, private-owned airplanes which has around 15 to 150 seats, which means it has less capacity for passengers and luggage compared to the scheduled airlines. Number 2, it's easier to reach the maximum capacity as their capacity is smaller when we compare it to the scheduled flights. Number 3, charter airlines are mostly in full capacity mainly because of the expensive prices of the traveling services. Therefore, they're less likely to have capacity issues compared to the scheduled airlines as they are more expensive.
Thank you. So in this slide, we're going to talk about the capacity management and how it was affected by Corona. And first of all, we're going to start off. The first point we talks about reducing the employees due to the low demand for flights, and around 12,000 workers in British Airways could face redundancy as the airlines slashes jobs in a bid to stay afloat during the corona pandemic. So as we can see that British Airways are trying to get rid of some of their employees so they can stay and maintain 50% of the capacity on flights to follow social distance rules, which reduces the stuff on aircraft. So I'd say that because of coronavirus, the airlines cannot go and use their full capacity, so they have to maintain the social distancing. So they're going to use only 50% of their capacity. And the last point is COVID restriction on travels, such as some country not allowing tourists to visit and travel from a country to another, forcing quarantine. So now it's reduced the flights operations and basically the demand on flights. Thank you.
Digital transformation. British Airways was too slow with innovation or technologies. Due to that, their competitors found it as a competitive advantage. Multiple feedbacks to update the in-flight entertainment service and fix the loss of internet whilst on air. British Airways has been receiving multiple number of feedbacks from the passengers to update the in-flight entertainment service and also to fix the loss of internet while on air. They roll out innovation and updates only to few number of flights. When British Airways finds out a new technology or innovation, when they implement it, they roll it out only to a few number of flights in their fleet. So these factors clearly shows that they don't have a firm digital solution in the past decades. But in 2017, British Airways created a whole new level of digital experience and also a good mobile app which is completely helpful for them in terms of technologies. But it still couldn't help during the COVID-19. Few of the features that they have installed in 2017 was digital baggage credit, update seats while on board, eliminating pain points, that is like automatic flight rebooking or re-imaging, compensation in case of significant delays.
Thank you. So in this slide, we're going to talk about the challenges in information management for the airline industry. And here we're going to talk about two challenges. The first one is digital transformation. And in this part, I would like to quote Mr. Tim Clark. He's the president of Emirates, and he says every organization is going through a digital transformation, whether they know it or not. So it means that big firms, their challenge now is to invest in the digital transition, since passengers are increasingly younger and more tech savvy. And the second point is, according to CETA, Air Transport's IT Insight Survey, there is an 8% improvement in passenger satisfaction at every touch point when passengers use new technology. So from this part, we can understand that youngsters and new generation are more into technology, and they want technology to be part of their trips because it makes it easier. And the last point is the airline industry must bring new ways of thinking by integrating disparate operations systems and connecting these to customer facing interface. The second challenge that we would like to talk about is the big data, and nowadays we know how much the data is important, but the first challenge would be to collect clean data. Data that is accurate, quantitatively measurable, and easy to analyze, because we know like data without data by itself is not enough, and it's not going to make a difference. So we can leverage machine learning to create customer profiles and preferences matrices, use business intelligence and analytics tools to extract powerful insights. A good use at the end of the data will allow us to get new solutions and accurate flights prediction that will allow us to plan in advance and predict future scenarios and suggest best course of action.
So in this section, I'll be talking about quality. So right now I'll give you a definition of quality for the aviation industry. So quality is the measure of excellence of something or the standard assessed against another of a comparable type. In the airline industry, quality falls into two categories, which are the airport or ground services, number two, cabin services criteria. So let's look at number one, the airport or ground services. So quality in this industry can be measured by management and standardization of arrival and departures of flights on time, as well as availability of transfer services and handling of travelers' luggage. In terms of cabin services criteria, this is based on the comfort seats, flight entertainment, hygiene of the aircraft, and efficiency of the cabin services. Let's look at the next slide. What is the customer's expectations of quality due to COVID-19? Customers expect airports to strengthen the quality of health and safety measurements by introducing new safety and risk management measures by providing a continuous feeling of safety and healthy environment is an absolute must in the post-COVID-19 world. Furthermore, it is expected by the consumers because the usual hygiene measurements alone are not enough. Number one, the customers could expect the airport staff to enforce the government's rules and regulations regarding face masks and social distancing, and to provide sanctions such as fines to the customers who does not follow the government guideline. Number two, the customer could also expect for the airport staff to create open air spaces within the airport. This is because it has been shown at Barcelona airport passengers being appreciative to spend their downtime in an outdoor space after they have passed all of the numerous security checks and health and safety. And for many customers, the open air is very important because they are afraid of catching the disease. Therefore, by being in an open area, they are less likely to catch it. The customers could also expect the airports to introduce digital communication and processing. This is because the communication and processing should be contactless and easily adaptable. This is expected from the customers because by introducing digital processing and communication, it will help reduce physical touching and close face-to-face communication, which will help reduce the transmission rate within the airports.
So now I'm gonna speak about TQM, Total Quality Management, and how it can be implemented in an aviation industry. I think that the role of the line manager is very important to have to have TQM implemented. This is because they are the direct connection between employees and upper management. So having a good manager will set out the goals that you want as a CEO, and that's going to keep maintain your quality to be high, because that is what TQM is known for. It's known for quality and everyone giving out his maximum capacity. And the advantages of having a TQM is it is in line with the just-in-time production, which is perfect for the aviation industry, because they are they use just-in-time production to produce only what they need for, and they will set an example for the future, not just for tomorrow. And that is great, because that will keep the level high, the quality high, and it will also offer good training program, which will help them internally and recruiting. They will not need to recruit employees, because their training program would be good, and so that will attract also employees, because they want to get the maximum out of themselves. And this will also eliminate waste, meaning nothing would be left over, and that is always a plus, and would make it a productive workforce.